Carolyn Mackenzie, and it's hard to believe another year has come and gone. And what better way to put a bow on 2025 than by looking back at not only stories that inspired us, but also those that pulled on our heartstrings as well. We asked our team of journalists right across the country about the moments that stood out to them the most over the last calendar year. Here's one. For 32 years, baseball fans across the country have rooted and cheered on their beloved Toronto Blue Jays in hopes of another Joe Carter moment. It should come as no surprise that their World Series run, which brought the entire country together, both young and old, bringing joy and eventual pain to Canada's team, became one of the most captivating stories of the year.
Nobody had high hopes for the Blue Jays in 2025, and even as the season rolled on for the first 2 months, there was no expectation that Jays were going to be a good team.
Going to games early in the year, the dome's half empty, you know, the roof's closed, there's no atmosphere, and then to see it just kind of grow, and then to this crescendo.
2 months ago, the Blue Jays were in the bottom half, 10th place, and going nowhere. And then they began winning and climbing, and now they are on top of the American League. And so they'd had this remarkable climb through the standings. And at the same time, people were noticing that they were kind of an exciting brand of baseball to watch play.
I was at most of the games in 2015 and 2016 too. That was a pretty big vibe. Let's go! Come on! But this was the next level to that, because that was a good team, but this was a great team.
There's been a notable shift in the energy at the Rogers Centre.
Still a little bit too much for me, but you got to deal with it.
Right before the World Series began, they had a media day where they cram everybody into this little room, and each player is sitting at a little table. You waited your turn, you could go up and talk to them, and I was sort of psyching myself up, trying to get on the level of these guys that are obviously paid millions of dollars to play baseball. Someone like Kevin Gausman, I couldn't believe it how gracious he was.
There was no ego about them. They were willing to talk to you. They were interested in talking to you. And I think the public could see that about them, that they weren't only performing well, but that they were enjoying playing with each other. And it was just fun to watch them.
It just went from, our sports team, it became a Toronto story, then it became a Canadian story. So it really evolved.
There's just so many Blue Jays fans in the city, and they were all about it. Everyone was just so jacked, and they had every right to be.
I've never seen lines that big, not on a game day, so people lining up in the rain, waiting to get their hands on, those World Series hats. I know I tried to get one. It was not lucky because they sold out so fast. Some people didn't want to be on camera because they called in sick to work to go and get their hands on this merch.
That was a tough series. I went to game 2, which we lost, and that was pretty bad. It didn't look good. It was going 0-2 on the road. You didn't think this team had a chance.
That they had to go to Seattle and win at least 2 out of 3 games to try to get the series back to Toronto. And they went into Seattle and they did exactly that. They stood out was that the Blue Jays fell behind and they weren't having much success, and George Springer stepped up.
Well, the Springer dinger was huge. They were down and out in that game, and he just launched that ball.
And he tied the game. That's what you were thinking. And all of a sudden he hits this ball out towards left field.
There is the saying, there's no cheering in the press box, but when George Springer hit that home run, nobody was quiet.
And the pin literally flew out of my hand as I watched the ball go over the fence, because not only did they tie up the game, they went ahead in the game, and it was just one of the most remarkable sporting moments that I've witnessed.
Let's play ball.
I love you, Vladdy. I love you.
Remember being in awe of how loud it was in there, the energy, you feel every emotion when you're inside the stadium, and of course when you leave the stadium you see that on a different level.
Fans ecstatic! We with the Jays punching their ticket to the World Series.
Coming to work the next day, tired, but ready to keep going on this train, and just really happy that we get to keep talking about this for another 2 weeks.
World Series, baby! Let's go! Let's go, Blue Jays! Let's go, Blue Jays!
They were such remarkable ball games out there. 18 innings, and it just went on forever.
Well, many fans left early looking tired. They definitely got their money's worth in a true playoff game for the ages. I rewrote my story like 5 times at least, and there's all these other media from around the world watching it, and everybody started to laugh as each inning kept on rolling on because they're thinking like, how am I going to do this? You're all in the same boat.
And the Blue Jays lost, and you just had the feeling, oh. And yet they came back and won the next 2 games in LA, and suddenly you were sky high about their chances.
I thought we had it. I really did think we had it.
I'm Anthony Robart down at the Rogers Center. It does not get much better than this.
Game 6 was that game that we had the road show outside the stadium. Just felt like we were going to do it that night. And then Game 7 was just pure chaos.
They lost and everyone kind of went, ah, and had a day or 2 to mourn and then went back to their jobs. That next week, I think I worked 5 shifts and I had to do 3 or 4 of them on Jay's aftermath. So I got kind of like a straight week of just getting slapped in the face with it, and it was not ideal.
Of course, there's some hard feelings, like people are upset, they want to celebrate. I know here in Toronto, we wanted that parade.
People would kill for these tickets, and then we're not only getting into the stadium, but we're getting access to all these players and seeing them up close. So throw around dream assignment.
We had all access to those guys, and that was one of the best parts of it, was you kind of got to celebrate with them a bit. Until we did, that was the worst part.
Cool moment as a journalist. Like, I think we cover, unfortunately, a lot of sad stories, a lot of tough stories. So to cover something that's like the biggest story in the country, but is a good news story, is really refreshing.
The best part that came out of all of it was bringing the city together. And for a month, we just kind of forgot about everything else, and we're all pulling in one direction.
I've been a baseball follower for a long, long time. And to have the Blue Jays kind of where they are right now, I think generates a lot of excitement for fans. And going into 2026, hard to imagine that there's been a year with more anticipation than there is this year.
Game 7, nothing beats it. And we got 2 Game 7s in this championship run. One didn't work out, but there is always next year. And we can hope that that'll happen.
Manitoba's 2025 wildfire season was the worst on record. One of the first fires that cropped up early in the season was the Lac de Bonnie fire, which is just about an hour out of Winnipeg.
Getting out of the car there, we knew it would be bad because the winds were crazy. The kind of winds where I'm having to hold my tripod and my camera to get shots.
Dry, hot conditions and strong winds have fueled a fire that began Tuesday morning in the RM of Lac de Bonnie.
The conditions were absolutely brutal. The wind was terrible. It was blowing up dust consistently. I think the scariest part of day 1 was kind of the uncertainty, not knowing if anyone was still in there.
We were obviously sending crews out to try to talk to get to the wildfire locations, but also to talk to the people who were evacuating, and many of them were coming more towards Winnipeg, and that's when we met with Ron Burley.
Ron Burley is grateful to be safe and sound in Birds Hill.
You gotta go. You gotta go, Dean.
After a harrowing escape from his home in Lac de Bonnie Tuesday,
oh boy,
flanked by a raging wildfire.
He told us he was one of the last people to get out of that area, and was truly grateful to be alive, and said he was basically on the drive out staring death in the face.
Oh no.
A wall of orange smoke and flames above the trees, swallowing his way out.
We may have waited too long. I don't know.
The gentleman that was in front of me that helped me pack up, I right away started thinking my selfishness may have me and this guy, our lives.
He went out a road called Wendigo Road, And tragically, 2 people were on Wendigo Road trying to also escape the flames and didn't make it out and lost their lives. And he realized after that had he kept driving down Wendigo Road and not turning off to another route, that he probably would have ended up in the same place as those 2 people who died.
I don't know that I want to make that drive, to be honest.
When the time was right, we did make the trip back to Lac du Bonnet with Ron. Fortunately, his home was spared from the flames, but you saw just how close it came.
But going back in and seeing the complete devastation from that fire was something else. Driving in, there would be patches that were untouched, that were green, and then a kilometer down the road, everything would be gone. Like what trees were left were just black matchsticks, and then the bedrock could be 6 or 7 days after the fire was out there, and I felt like that bedrock of the land was still hot, like warm to walk on.
Basically looked like a barren wasteland. It was early spring, so you could hear the sound of songbirds among the burnt out landscape, which to me almost kind of signified a sign of life after devastation.
It's an almost eerie sound. Songbirds among the cindered trees in Lac du Bonnet. Homes and cottages incinerated, now piles of ash and rubble. In some cases, with nothing more than a fireplace left standing.
Most of those cases of those cottages, 40 years or longer. You know, it's not about it being a recreational property. It's people's stories, their lives.
There was nothing left there. The land will never be the same as it was for decades.
So that's something that kind of sticks with you, is his message to others as wildfires were cropping up across the province was that when it's an emergency situation like that, don't grab your belongings or mementos or things that really don't matter, because he said that's what he did, and he had a friend with him, and he said it almost cost them their lives.
Thinking I had time and grabbing materialistic things that, well, it almost cost me my life. I'm hoping that they're not making those same decisions and that they're just getting out. It happens so fast. When they tell you to get out, you just got to go. You got to go.
When it comes to weather, you don't really know what you're going to get. We knew there was a possibility of a very serious ice storm coming our way. There's a part of me, though, that always kind of thinks, so maybe it's not going to be as bad as they're predicting.
Peterborough County could see up to 25 millimeters of ice accretion.
There were indications that we were going to have a significant event, and then obviously as it gets closer, okay, this is getting more serious.
We knew this storm had the potential to be bad, and the weather team prepared us for that, but stepping out into it that morning was something else entirely.
This is Global News at 6.
Tonight, a high-impact ice storm batters parts of Ontario.
I could just hear the trees coming down. It woke me up. My power was out. Waking up the next morning, everything was just quiet. There was no power, and then you'd hear the trees falling. It was just almost surreal. I knew at that point that this one was going to be so bad.
Peterborough, one of the hardest hit areas, is now under a state of emergency with widespread power outages, fallen trees, and dangerous road conditions.
Whole roads were suddenly blocked by downed lines and massive branches.
The city of Peterborough declared a state of emergency this morning, warning residents to stay home unless travel is absolutely necessary.
Tens of thousands of people were without power that day.
We were sort of the epicenter in a lot of ways, but this storm, I mean, the devastation stretched across most of central Ontario, really.
Hydro One crews and contractors have been working to clear lines and restore service.
We are a small local newsroom, and we don't have a huge staff of camera operators or editors or producers in the field. We really just have our video journalists. And that day we had one on staff who was working, and that was Mark Woodhouse, who'd only been on the job for about 3 months at that point. And so this was sort of a trial by fire, or trial by ice is a little more apropos.
Underway.
Mark Woodhouse is on the ground and has more in our top story.
There was definitely pressure to have a report that day. We had no cell signal, no internet. I remember standing on a desk by the window, just trying to get one bar.
You can have all the best laid plans, but when your internet doesn't work, you're trying to communicate with city officials and emergency folks. I think that was probably the most challenging aspect, especially the day of the storm.
It was exciting to be covering something like that, but obviously when people and their safety, it's at risk, you want to be as accurate as possible and as efficient with the information. So we were just kind of trying to do our best that way.
I definitely wanted to just get the shots and then get back inside to warm up, but I also wanted people to really see what their neighbors were dealing with, so that kept me out there quite a while.
You're trying to work, but you're also dealing with the effects like everybody else was. None of us had power in our homes. We were dealing with trees falling on our vehicles and our houses. For a lot of our staff who live rurally, that went on for weeks for some.
My fiance works for Hydro One, so weather is obviously a big topic of conversation in our household. Across the region, the following days and even weeks, we started to see damage still occurring. And I don't think I really saw him for a whole month after that, so that's something that definitely kind of stands out. Looking back, it was kind of such a surreal time, the damage that people still have, on their properties.
You still see signs of that weekend in areas that you can't easily get to, and some of those impacts still turn up in the stories we cover now.
The thing about any sort of weather event like that is that we are tasked with getting that information out there. It is our job to do that. Our audience and our viewers depend on us. So, we do what we have to do. We always do.
As journalists, we often witness heartbreaking moments, tragedies that leave you sitting across from a grieving family in their worst moments. But there are also inspiring stories of resiliency and survival, and this was one of those, an event that shook our global Calgary newsroom and changed lives forever on the morning of July 21st.
We now have a better idea as to why Calgary police had to tape off such a large scene for this crash here along 52nd Street Northeast. What appeared to be a two-vehicle rollover soon became a much more complex investigation.
Police said a truck was speeding down the wrong direction of a busy roadway, striking and killing a pedestrian before slamming into a Jeep with a young newlywed couple inside. The couple and the driver that was later charged were all in critical condition.
One guy said, "Don't touch them," but there's a fire already erupted on the vehicle on top, and I was trying to get him to come out, and I gave him a little bit of a hand, but he was bleeding all over the place. I don't know what to say for the families. It's horrible.
EMS, firefighters, police said no one's going to survive that. It was that bad.
Reaching out to families after this kind of tragedy is truly one of the hardest parts of our jobs as reporters. And in some cases, the family does want to talk, and it can help with raising community support. In other cases, they are angry and horrified, concerned that their tragedy will be exploited. In this case, family had learned of the tragedy from one of our news reports when her daughter didn't come home that morning.
Ran upstairs and Googled accidents in the Northeast and saw her car, what I thought was her car.
It's okay, Tia. It's okay. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. We're here with you.
It took Taylor Ramatar over a week to come to. Her husband, Jonathan Ramatar, nearly didn't make it.
The doctor came to us and they said it's not good. We can't guarantee tonight, and it's minute by minute. And there was 15 of us, all family and friends, and we just all got into a big group hug and we all prayed.
Gratefully, the family welcomed our interest and kept in touch, giving us updates on the couple's condition while they shared their first anniversary in hospital, and eventually were able to move into a shared room in rehab.
Being able to be close to him, to look at him, to smile and laugh with him, which might not have happened, is just, it's really good.
Emergency crews had a unique opportunity to visit with the couple they rescued when hopes of survival were tenuous.
It's just such a powerful moment to remind us about why we signed up to do what we do. We don't always have that closure.
You made it. For me personally, this fall, instead of sitting across from a grieving family, I got a chance to sit with them as they watched the couple take their first steps together.
Be able to walk in that journey together. We still have all of our family and friends behind us.
They had someone looking over them that day.
It's good that, the story has a, eventual happy ending.
Okay.
It is truly an honor that people trust us with these incredibly personal moments in their lives, to witness that resiliency and to feel the support from our viewers that are deeply invested in the outcomes of strangers in their community surviving the unthinkable.
And that's our look at some of the impactful stories from the past 12 months. Here's to a new year full of hope and stories that move us along the way. And we leave you tonight with some of the glitz and glitter of the season as we take a look at light displays across the country. I'm Carolyn Mackenzie, wishing you a happy holiday season from all of us here at Global News.